Just as inequality feeds on injustice, opportunity requires justice, and justice requires the right to vote. Every American citizen must have an equal right to vote. Voting is a time when we all have an equal say. Black or white, rich or poor, man or woman. Doesn't matter. Let's be clear, the real voter fraud is people who try to deny our rights by making bogus arguments about voter fraud.
That was President Obama moments ago speaking at the National Action Network convention in New York City. The president's speech, a fiery address that had quite a bit of campaign energy behind it, focused on the issue of voting rights and voter fraud, or lack thereof. Joining me now is host of MSNBC's The Reid Report, Joy Reid, and editor-at-large of Salon, Joan Walsh. My friends, thank you for joining me. I feel like Joan, fired up and ready to go. The president is back. The Washington Post has a headline today saying that voting rights is the Democrats' most important project in 2014, and listening to the president today, that certainly seemed apparent.
It seemed apparent. That was a really wonderful speech in a lot of ways, because he did something that's very tough, Alex. He did two things. He said to the audience and to those of us listening out here that the Republicans are trying to take away people's rights. The real voting fraud is the people claiming voting fraud. He talked about the obstacles that are being put in people's way, but he also said we cannot let that stop us. And these messages don't always go together, right? We can sit and complain about Republicans, but then to come right back and say we're going to fight those laws. Eric Holder is out fighting those new laws. We're going to protect your rights, but in the meantime, you help us protect your rights. Don't fall into cynicism. So I thought it was a very effective speech, and yes, it was an opening salvo in the 2014 midterms, because we are going to see the anniversary of Freedom Summer. We are going to have an opportunity to rally Democrats and say, don't let people have died in vain.
Yeah, and Joy, the president was in Austin this week talking about the Civil Rights Act. He's at the National Action Network, which, of course, is our very own Reverend Sharpton's organization. And he was speaking in large part to the black community, which is, of course, disproportionately affected by these voter suppression acts. In Ohio, for example, where they have eliminated Sunday voting, Sunday early voting, weekday evening voting. They have cut early voting by a week and eliminated same-day registration. In that state, black voters constituted 58% of all weekend voters in Cuyahoga County, which is one of Ohio's largest counties, even though they made just 28% of the country's population. Disproportionately,
at the LBJ Library was a much more diplomatic version of this, but this was like a really square punch at Republicans, naming them by name, ridiculing the idea of voter fraud and giving the percentages 0.0002%, but really, to your point, zeroing in that message to black voters to do again what they did in 2012, which was to react to the attempt to take away the right to vote by voting in even greater numbers, and pairing that with the responsibility not to, as he said, voluntarily give away your vote. But this is not just in Ohio. We're talking about in Wisconsin, where all of the restrictions seem to target Milwaukee, this attempt to really get rid of that Sunday voting. And when he said take those souls to the polls, that audience knew exactly what he was talking about, because Sunday voting is actually being targeted everywhere Republicans attempt to reform, quote unquote, the voting rules.
Yeah, Joan, he did mention the souls to the polls, and I thought that was the most sort of literal and direct appeal to not only are we going to fight these, you guys have got to show up. Because, of course, Democrats' problem in midterm elections is that Democratic voters don't show up to the polls. I think beyond that political practicality and reality, though, this is, when the president he called it a stain, or he called it an un-American activity on the part of these governors, and I tend to agree with him. When you look at what these governors and what these state legislatures are trying to do, it, I think, is a stain on the party. The fact that a party that is in crisis, that needs to fundamentally broaden its appeal, is trying to make it harder for people to exercise their democratic right is shameless and shameful.
It's shocking. Let's just use all the S words. And you know, he was also actually he quoted State Senator Dale Schultz of Wisconsin. He's the person who said, for a party that wants to get more voters, this is a strange way to go about showing it. And it's really heartbreaking too, Alex, because I just went back and looked at President George W. Bush's speech, his signing statement when he signed the reauthorization in 2006 of the Voting Rights Act. It passed the Senate 98-0. It passed the House. I'm doing this on memory. I think it's something like 397 votes. Okay, that is extraordinary. He stood there with Julian Bond and Reverend Jackson and Reverend Sharpton and Fannie Lou Hamer's family, and talked about how this was the American, and this was our legacy, and this was going to be his legacy. And in 8 short years, they've turned around and they've become the party that wants to stop black people from voting. I mean, it's really, it's so remarkable to see this kind of a sea change. We often throw things around like in our lifetimes. In our lifetimes, in 8 years, it's in a couple of election cycles. It's really tragic, and it's an occasion for soul searching on the part of the Republican Party. It should be.
I mean, and Joy, let us quote the person that Republicans love quoting more than anybody, Ronald Reagan, in 1981, urging Congress to renew the Voting Rights Act for 10 years. Ronald Reagan said this: "For this nation to remain true to its principles, we cannot allow any American's vote to be denied, diluted, or defiled. The right to vote is the crown jewel of American liberties, and we will not see its luster diminished." That was Ronald Reagan, and I think there are still some Republicans that remember the words of Reagan and the party of Reagan, and they are feeling perhaps just the slightest bit ashamed. The New York Times had a fascinating report on voter suppression efforts, and the fact that Republican governors and legislators are now trying to say this isn't about voter fraud, this is about equity in terms of access to the polls and making sure that urban and rural voters have the same times and windows in which they can vote. I think it is a desperate attempt at a desperate strategy.
Yeah, it's an attempt to sort of cover an obscenity, right? Because, and I think the word obscene really does apply here, because even worse than the fact that you do have a party which, as the president said, if your goal is to reduce the number of people coming out to vote, if your strategy is to make sure that people who you don't like the outcome of what they do can't come to the polls, that is a fundamental sign of weakness. He actually called the Republican Party out for showing weakness by saying we've got to prevent these people who don't vote correctly from getting to the polls. But when you talk about that urban-rural dynamic, that is the biggest dog whistle in Christendom.
Right.
You're essentially saying we've got to make sure that the rural voters who it's made unfair to them because the urban voters are coming out and they're implying that there's something fraudulent about the numbers and that there's something sort of false about this idea of people being elected by urban rather than rural voters. So we'll equalize the rules and make it all but impossible for people to vote. Can't vote on the weekend, can't vote late at night. If you work in an 8-hour day and you get off at 5 or 6 o'clock, we're just going to make sure the poll is closed when you get there. And that kind of thing has been called out by Republicans before. Jim Greer, who used to run the Republican Party of Florida before he got into legal trouble, told me directly that when these rules were pitched in Florida to get rid of early voting or shorten it and to get rid of Sunday voting, they understood exactly who they were targeting: black voters, brown voters, period.
Joan, you know, we've talked a lot about race and this president because of the events at hand, and of course just where we are in terms of American society, and I know you've written about it. The president addressed something that we haven't talked something we haven't talked about in a long time, which is the birth certificate controversy. Can we play that sound? I think we have it. Let's take a listen to what he said.
Without a document like a passport or a birth certificate, they can't register. Just to be clear, I know where my birth certificate is, but a lot of people don't. You remember that? That was crazy.
Joan, that was crazy. It is crazy what this president has borne through, if you will.
It was crazy. It still is crazy. It's still going on out there. It's not over for him, but he was in a friendly crowd and he let his hair down, so to speak, and allowed himself to laugh at that and say, "This is crazy. Can you believe what I've had to go through?" And that crowd knew exactly what he was saying to them, Alex.
Yes, they did. And that birth certificate is still online at whitehouse.gov. Joy Reid and Joan Walsh, thank you, my friends. Have a good